Assalamu alaikum, it's Moon here, and welcome. So today I'm going to show you the interesting things I found in the Art of Bounds in Little Nightmares 3 demo. I'm not gonna show any of the animation because I don't honestly care about that. So this is gonna be a short one. So the first thing you notice when going out of bounds, in the main menu are three things mainly. And the first one I'm going to start with is the ship. Honestly, I did not notice that it was actually the place we exited the first time we entered was a ship. But it's really interesting for me. Now, I don't think that they actually came from this ship because the ship looked honestly very old and abandoned, like it haven't moved in ages. And the people, well, and even in the city are practically dead. They're long gone. So it wouldn't really make sense for them to have came through the ship. I believe that they actually came through the mirror that we saw was broken. It makes far more sense than this, well, rust of metal, honestly. And of course, the inside of the ship was empty. There's really nothing in there except the room we exited from. And for the second thing is this room. Now this is, I believe, the room in the demo. We did not get to experience this in the game. Mirrors in Little Nightmares in general are special, but this honestly felt extra special, you know. Though there wasn't really anything interesting other than a bunch of toys and whatever the heck this is, looks like an apron or something. And even more toys. There was nothing else other than the mirror, of course. As for this one, this is actually rather very interesting for me. Tapes were never actually a thing of Little Nightmares, so for them to suddenly have a bunch of recording tapes felt very strange. But there is one thing that seems to have a prominent thing about tape in Little Nightmares, and that is the sound of a nightmare. Well, and considering the reveal at the end of this chapter, perhaps there really is some form of connection, if you know what I mean. Okay, now the start of the game, when you exit the ship, wasn't really anything significant, honestly. But I decided to show you, because I was honestly curious what was inside the bags. And it was just a pile of clothing, apparently, if you want to know. Now for the city was actually rather very disappointing, not gonna lie. There wasn't anything except this interesting looking statue. You can tell that he was petrified while attempting to hang this body, I guess. Okay, now the doll was actually an interesting enemy for me, because this is actually the first enemy in the game that has the eye's power. This never have happened before in Little Nightmares. The eye was actually its own dedicated thing. So for this to have the eye seems to me like a big deal, considering the eye considered is the higher power, you know, like in Little Nightmares. I also thought that the doll, because of this part, did not have the eye, like it was given the eye, but it couldn't possibly be. Who have been petrifying these people all this time? This must be just a game. You know, like, dish it out because there's no need right now in the game, kind of thing. It doesn't make sense for the doll to lose its eye, you know? Okay, now the reason I actually thought that the eye was given to the doll is because of these two previous parts, but this part made me realize that it was not. I think the doll was actually naturally like this. Like if you look, it blinks and it goes away. I think the doll is very special, not gonna lie. And this is if you're interested in seeing the animation. Also, I thought I said I wasn't gonna show any animation, but honestly I like this animation so much, so I decided to show it. You can actually feel like it's a giant baby walking, you know. She has some weight to her. So, that's that, I guess. And this is very interesting. A gnome all the way over here could only mean one thing. considering the fact that we know from the DLC and Little Nightmares 1 the gnome are special to the Mao, because the lady is what makes the gnome. So for a gnome to make it all the way over here can only mean that they managed somehow to get into one of the guest ships and then made it all the way over here in this boat. Long distance traveled. And this is if you were curious, honestly. You know, this part bothered me because when you start on the ledge, Alone starts looking off into the distance. I honestly tried very hard to find anything significant she's looking at, but there was none. But you know what's really significant? This thing. At first I was like, an eye in the square. But then I realized like this square has suspiciously two antennas. And then I was like, a square with antennas. What could that possibly resemble, you know? And then it hit me. This looks like very much a TV. What does it mean? Honestly, I don't know. Okay, now this part I honestly did not find in the game. So I found it while exploring Autobahns. This is after the elevator, when you're almost squished in the elevator. On the left side. It seems like a normal clay pot room. There wasn't really anything significant with the pots other than the spiral symbol that resembles the eye. I tried very hard to find anything significant here, but I could not really. I even brought Law into the room and, well, hoping to trigger some kind of thing. Nothing really happened. But why hide them? I wonder. Also, Alone seems to refuse to enter this room. I don't know why. This is the first time she refused to follow Law, because from her description she is significantly attached to Law, so for her to just stand out felt weird. But I did realize one thing from this room. The actual clay pots are not actually made of clay. They're made of the same bone powder used throughout the entire game. So it's not actually a clay pot, it's a bone pot, I guess you can say. Okay, now this, if the bugs were not unpleasant enough for you, well, here you go. Extra unpleasantness. And this actually, I did not notice when I was fighting the bugs that this was a furnace. But it is a furnace for burning bodies, apparently. There wasn't anything significant other than the furnace itself. The bodies here were empty, other than the ones we saw above. But it does help you get a grasp over the walls build, I guess. Also, this is the weird spiral they felt the need to emphasize in the demo for some reason. There wasn't really anything significant about it. I don't know what's the deal with them. Okay, now this is actually quite an interesting find. In the game, you can't actually see this, and for them to make it deliberately out of sight felt very weird. I don't know what the exact lore about this would be, but you can tell the significance of the eye about this. But for these people's life to end from a creature that has the eye's eye, it's quite interesting, you know? Not gonna lie, you know? I'm also curious about the eye. Is it the grandma? Even above here, tiny people surrounding the eye. And this is the pile of bodies that kinda look like potatoes for me, not gonna lie. I was very curious about them, as it looked extra graphical, but like as you can see, it's detached. There isn't really nothing going on. An extra leg. The only thing that was significant about this pile of bodies is actually this black goop, which seemed to be a rare but frequent thing of Little Nightmares. And for the lying body over here, yes, also nothing much, honestly, not gonna lie. If you look, there is nothing in there. This entire room felt strange for me, not gonna lie. I don't know. Anyway, this is the part I was curious about to see from above. Honestly, if you look at it, it almost felt like a ritual, a summoning ritual. Is this how they brought the doll? I don't know if that's true or not, but it almost feels like it. Also, this powder I thought was salt is obviously, again, more bone powder. Perhaps they really actually did summon the doll like this, but I don't know. I have no basis for it. And another spiral. I don't know what's the deal with them. Okay, now this is actually was a very interesting thing for me. To see these hinges that connect the toys parts. It looked very deliberate, like it was made. Perhaps they made it to try and appease the doll, if that's the right word. And of course, here's a little something if the doll was not squarey enough for you. I thought it was a very nice angle and pleasant. And now for the real important things. Okay, this room, I was like, I'm hella checking this room later. But seems to have, like normal drawings, just the carnival, the city. Perhaps the city is for Law and the carnival is for Alone. Each have their own nightmare, right? With the Witch. Okay, now this picture, actually, I could not understand what the fish this is. For me, it looks like a little girl with a long hair reaching out to a jellyfish. But I would not know. I tried looking at it from every possible angle, and it just looks like an umbrella or a girl reaching out for a jellyfish. I don't know. How about you? Okay, this one also for me looks like a girl with long hair. Perhaps this girl with long hair is actually alone? I tried looking from under, but I could not see nothing. And the other corner significantly trying their best to hide it. I'm not sure if they're repeated drawings or not, but I tried looking from which angle, but I could not figure what the heck this is. It was very annoying, not gonna lie. Look at it as much as you want, I don't know. For me, I could not figure anything from this. It's up to you. No, this one could actually be the doctor or the counselor, if you know what I mean. But their shapes is very hard to figure out, not gonna lie. Honestly, it's like children's scribbles, not gonna lie. Unbelievable. There's nothing under the bed if you're wondering. And the boxes are also empty. No, honestly, when I first entered here, I did not think I would actually find anything, but I was very surprised to see this figure standing out at the door. I thought it would be just sound. So I was very interested in this figure that looks, and I was gonna lie, ridiculously normal. I started the game to try and figure out if there is anything significant about it. As you can see, Law runs away and hides as the figure approaches, and surprisingly normal figure, normal walk, normal behavior, normal face, But remember what I showed you at the beginning of the video? Those pile of tapes that are very strange for little nightmares, but very common for the sound of nightmares. And for me to find a normal looking guy that looks like a doctor or counselor out here could only... Well, we don't have other person to point out other than the counselor. Is it actually the counselor photo? I don't know. I started the game to see if anything happens, but just blacked out, Anyway, that will be the end of the video. Honestly, I did not see, there wasn't much in the demo in terms of secrets, but yeah, it's a demo. I mean, what do you expect, I honestly look forward to the game, but that whole thing that they're pushing about them being best friends, and friendship, whatever, does not bid well, I'm not gonna lie. Especially considering the fact that how attached Alone to Law, but Law does not seem to share the same sentimental. I'm not saying he doesn't care. I'm just saying he seems too obsessed with the idea of finding this exit, from the nowhere. I also look very forward to the comics, especially the one about Mono. Though I think it's going to be actually in the past, like before he made it to the Pal City. Perhaps we're gonna see how he was chosen for the Pal City. Maybe in the same way Six was chosen for the Mao after abandoning Mono. Perhaps Mono is going to abandon Hush in some way, and thus become the nominee for the Thin Man. But I don't know. Allah alam. We'll see. Anyway, that will be it inshallah for now. So until then, fi amanillah and assalamu alaikum. If you're interested in Little Nightmares lore, check out this video for Little Nightmares 2, where I crush the time loop theory. Check it out.